children, the youth of today to come down to Tahrir and stand by the protesters, which is really quite something.
But it is one of the hallmarks of this movement that it doesn't have identifiable leaders. In fact, that's been one of the things that protesters have said they've been proud of. To what extent is that a problem? For example, we've got this coalition of 6 people who say that they represent the protesters' views. What do the protesters themselves think about that?
Well, the protesters that I've spoken to are pretty cynical, actually, about these representatives. Cynical or certainly doubtful of whether their views are going to be played out. They're going to be aired and represented by these 6 representatives. You've got an incredibly diverse group of people protesting. Now, I spoke to one of these representatives in the coalition, and I asked him, "Are you going to talk to the government?" And he said, "At this stage, well, no, we're not going to do that. We're putting this coalition together." But at the same time, yes, we're 2 weeks into this protest. There is a feeling that despite the kind of sort of infrastructure moves that are being made in the square with a newspaper and as I say, this coalition of forces, the coalition of voices, they're still struggling to find that single voice, that single leadership. And I think the impact of Ghanim's release today, although he says he doesn't want to be their spokesperson at this stage, it will have a huge impact and could well kind of accelerate or bring on some momentum to their demands.
All right, thanks very much indeed for the update. About 8 million South Sudanese have been told they'll soon be living in a new country. Official results have confirmed what nearly 99% of voters already knew, that they chose to split from the north in January's referendum. The celebrations have begun, but as Harry Mutasa reports, there is also concern about the future.
Euphoria as people get confirmation that Southern Sudan will become the world's newest nation. Many have waited years for independence. As expected, the number of those who voted for secession was overwhelming. President Omar al-Bashir accepted the final results, allaying fears of some he would not let the South go peacefully. And people here seem confident officials in Southern Sudan will take the new country in the right direction.
They have the abilities and the capacity to lead the country to developing and also to a better future.
Monday's announcement has given Southern Sudan international recognition. Organizations like the African Union, the Arab League and the European Union have given their support to the South and promised to develop the new country. But expectations here are high, and building a new nation will not be easy. A lot of work needs to be concluded before Independence Day on the 9th of July. Issues including the disputed border region of IBA, citizenship, border demarcation and oil sharing are some of the challenges. As Southerners here celebrate the birth of a new nation, resolving outstanding issues will determine how peaceful the transition to independence will be. Harry Mutasa, Al Jazeera, Juba, Southern Sudan.
The WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has been in court in the UK to fight extradition to Sweden over accusations of sexual assault. His defence lawyer believes he'll face a, quote, flagrant denial of justice if the prosecutor's request is granted. Lawrence Lee reports.
Arriving at court, Julian Assange looked relaxed and less tense than he sometimes does, surrounded by high-profile celebrities, human rights supporters, and urged on by a group of young protesters who see the dark hand of the CIA behind this rape case. His team had tried to steal a march on the prosecutors by publishing his defence against the allegations online, all very WikiLeaks, and they sought to dismantle the extradition case. His defence team argues the Swedish prosecutor doesn't have the right to issue a European arrest warrant. They're concerned the trial would be held in secret with no chance of open justice. They also call it an abuse of process because Assange has offered himself for questioning but was turned down. They also argue Assange is the victim of illegal, corrupt behaviour by the Swedish prosecutors and that any extradition could lead to his deportation to the United States, where he could face the death penalty. The prosecution insists Assange did use violence in his sexual activities in Sweden and tried to play down fears that the case is a ruse to clear the way for an extradition to the United States. The defence team here have started to produce witnesses to try to undermine the extradition case against Julian Assange. Their first, a female retired Swedish judge who says she had more than 30 years' experience in criminal law. She said she regarded the prosecutor's evidence in Sweden against Assange as peculiar and malicious, and the prosecutor as having biased views against men. Yet when the prosecutor here tried to ask her questions, she suddenly found it very difficult to explain Swedish law in English, or even at times to understand some of the questions. Another witness suggested one of the alleged victims had changed her story.
That 48 hours after the crime, the alleged crime, she volunteered to become Julian Assange's personal press secretary. The story given to the police does not bring up those instances.
And Assange himself told the media he was feeling more confident, and so did his supporters.
5.5 months. We have been in a condition where a black box has been applied to my life. And on the outside of that black box has been written the word rape. That box is now, thanks to an open court process, being opened. And I hope over the next day we will see that that box is in fact empty and has nothing to do with the words that are on the outside of it.
I think that some of the evidence came through, which is a very good news, that the truth is emerging.
The hearing is scheduled to end on Tuesday. There may or there may not be a final ruling on the extradition. Lawrence Lee, Al Jazeera in London.
A separatist leader says he ordered the suicide bombing that killed 36 people at Russia's busiest airport last month. Speaking in a video that was posted on an Islamist website, Doku Umarov described the attack on Moscow's Domodedovo airport on January the 24th as a special operation directed against the Russian people and its Prime Minister, Vladimir Putin. He added there will be more attacks in pursuit of an independent Muslim state in Russia's Caucasus region. France's foreign minister is facing calls to resign after taking a holiday in Tunisia during the country's uprising. Michelle Alliot-Marie has said she regrets taking the holiday in December. She's also admitted to using a Tunisian businessman's private jet several times during her stay there, but she's refusing to step down. Iran's been showing off its new military technology. The Revolutionary Guard test-fired a supersonic ballistic missile on Monday. The elite military wing says the weapon's capable of hitting warships or other targets without being intercepted. An official review in the UK has shown that Britain's previous government did all it could to help Libya win the release of the man convicted of the Lockerbie bombing in 1998. Prime Minister David Cameron has called the release of Abdel Basset al-Megrahi a mistake. Paul Brennan has the details.
The release of the Lockerbie bomber Abdel Basset Ali Mohammed al-Megrahi in 2009 caused considerable anger in America and the UK. And the news that behind the scenes the then UK government was doing all it could to secure his freedom will further stir up emotions. Megrahi remains the only person to have been convicted of involvement in the bombing of Pan Am Flight 103 over Lockerbie in 1988, an outrage which killed a total of 270 people. Megrahi's freedom was granted by the devolved authorities in Scotland on compassionate grounds, on the basis that he had been diagnosed with terminal cancer. Publicly, the government of Prime Minister Gordon Brown in London kept its distance, insisting that any criticism of the release should be directed at the Scottish. But the new review reveals that privately, the policy of the London government had fundamentally changed.
They were doing that for geopolitical, for economic reasons. And yet, a year later, when the Scottish Government, under due process of Scots law, did release Mr Megrahi, then we were roundly attacked by the Labour Party in Scotland, viciously attacked, and Gordon Brown was absolutely silent. I haven't seen a more case of more organised hypocrisy in my political lifetime.
On October the 8th, 2008, the UK government minister Bill Rammell met his Libyan counterpart, Abdulati Al-Obidi. On October the 17th, Mr Rammell followed it up with a letter, and the two men met again on November 17th. On December the 1st, the British ambassador gave further procedural advice to the Libyans. And at a third meeting in February of 2009,